Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome to our program. I'm Brother Shabbazz, and you're viewing the Shabbazz Show. As always, we thank you for this privilege, this opportunity to come before you, wherever you may be viewing this broadcast, whether it's in the comforts of your home, or your businesses, your computers, wherever you may be viewing this particular broadcast. I'm just grateful and thankful to Allah for this privilege and this opportunity to come before you and hopefully give you some sort of enlightenment with respects to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. As you know, for over 5 years we've been doing the Shabbazz Show, and we abruptly stopped at the beginning of this year. And hopefully by Allah's permission we're going to go into why we stopped, why we chose on this day, the 4th of July, to come back on the airways to officially let you know where I am, what I'm thinking, and what the direction that Brother Lance is trying to move on with. So again, brothers and sisters, I'm grateful, I'm thankful to Almighty God Allah. I do want to say this right from the outset. This is what I would claim my believers only meeting, and I say believers only meaning those who have at least a minimum of 25 to 30 years of Islam under their belt. This message is for you only. If you don't have a minimum of 25 years of Islam in your belt, perhaps you should log off, because I'm going to go into some areas and some things that if you don't have understanding on it, you may just bug out, you may go a little crazy. But this show, the Shabbazz Show, has always been personal to me. Always have been personal, and I use this program to work out some of the issues that have been affecting me for nearly 53 years of my life. So I take this time, brothers and sisters, to do that. Nearly 3 million of you have gone along with this ride over the past 5 years, and I am grateful and thankful again for those who support it, or even if you don't support it, but you respect it. I'm grateful and thankful to Almighty God Allah. My views and my opinions are just that. I've never been one who liked to just join a chorus and go along with something unless I really have a conviction with it. And whenever I make a decision, brothers and sisters, I'm ready to stand on it and I'm ready to die on it. And I'm ready for whatever repercussions to come my way. Because I don't just stand up, or I don't just speak something that just to be talking and speaking because I have lips. I speak what's in my heart, and whatever's in my heart to say, I say it, brothers and sisters, without any fear of any of the consequences or repercussions. I am Brother Shabbazz. Again, brothers and sisters, to those who don't know me, some of you may have heard of me. Some of you may have drawn your own conclusion of what I'm about or who I am and sum up who I am. But I'm going to let you know today, brothers and sisters, exactly what I'm thinking and where I'm going with this program. In January of 2011, the beginning of this year, I abruptly brought my show to a halt. There were several reasons that led to that decision, but I say this. At that time, in January, CBS, the producers, one producer in particular from the program, highly rated show, 60 Minutes, had contacted me. He wanted to go with me and meet with Tamaj Hare. Tamaj Hare, I just say Tamaj Hare for those of you who are familiar with the Malcolm X and the Malcolm X assassination team. They know about that. So I use that name, Tamaj Hare. I'm not disrespecting the brother's Islamic name. I know his Islamic name. But for those of you who are listening, I just want you to understand who and what I'm talking about. So please bear with me. As again, I talk off the top of my head, but these thoughts have been formulating for several months that what I'm going to go into today. So it's not that I'm speaking in a vacuum. I'm speaking of things that I've played over in my head, certainly for the last 8-9 weeks. Over and over again. In January, I received a telephone call from a producer with 60 Minutes television program. They wanted me to accompany me to Brother Tamaj Hare. As you know, Tamaj Hare and I have known Tamaj Hare for many years. He was one who was caught on the scene that fateful day of February the 21st, 1965 in New York on 168th Street, or up there by the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. He was shot on that day. Well, Brother Tamaj Hare has served over nearly 40 years. He's been with the penitentiary for that murder of Malcolm X. 60 Minutes wanted me to take them to him. I said, this is what you do. Send me a letter, and I'll deliver it to him. And if he chose whatever you suggest in that letter, what if he chose to contact you, then that's on him, and I'll have nothing to do with that. But they continued to hound me about this. Then they switched gears and wanted to know about a fella in Newark, New Jersey, by the name of William Bradley. Again, I know the Muslim name, but I'm just saying William Bradley. William Bradley was one of the men who Talmadge Hare named in 1977, I believe, in an affidavit with attorney William Kunstler. He named William Bradley as one of the men actually having the shotgun that shot Malcolm on that day, again, February the 21st of 1965. If I'm being deliberate and slow, it's because sometimes I talk very rapidly and I'll talk over things and maybe you're not understanding where I'm going with it. So please be patient with me today, brothers and sisters, because there's so much on my mind that I want to say, and legally I'm going to say what I can legally say. So they begin to want to question William Bradley. Many of you, if you research, you know I interviewed Brother's wife. Brother was on the premises when I interviewed his wife. I spoke with him on the telephone, and I want to say this, his wife is probably one of the sweetest sisters that I've met. She gave me a history on the city of Newark, New Jersey. She gave me a contribution that day. She allowed me to film all through her place. She allowed me also, she offered for me to take whatever furniture that she had to help with my program. When I spoke to Brother William, or Bradley as they call, we would say, he told me how much he appreciated my program. Again, brothers and sisters, I don't know what was the intention, but I decided to just shut down because I saw February the 21st coming again, and I thought maybe 60 Minutes was going to do a job on that, and I didn't really want I wanted my hands clear of that. February came. March the 3rd, I believe, was the date that a book was to be published by Manning Marable. This book on the reinvention of Malcolm X. Now, the researchers on that book, well, I'm just going to leave that alone. I just want to say that I do not endorse the book. I think it's trash, and I'm going to move on with that. Maybe I'll come back and tell you some of the backdrop on that, but it doesn't even matter. We move forward. So I began to shut my show. The last program that I did air was an interview, a telephone interview that I did with the grandson of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Brother Jesus Muhammad Ali. He's the author of the book, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, The Evolution of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I really enjoy warm, friendly brotherhood with Brother Jesus Muhammad Ali, the grandson of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I thought it was appropriate to leave off with that show because we went into so much of this history and perhaps went into areas that most of you had no knowledge of. I want you to know, out of every Muslim that I know, in 1975, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed, passed away, expired, whatever language you want to say.
Elijah Muhammad, the black supremacist and the longtime leader of the black Muslims and their nation of Islam here in the United States, died today in Chicago of congestive heart failure. He was 77. Born in Georgia and named Elijah Poole, Elijah Muhammad founded his movement in Detroit in the 1930s. The holdings of his organization are worth millions, and the adherents are many.
In February the 25th, 1975, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had passed away. It seemed like everybody unanimously threw the support behind the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's son, Warrith Deen Muhammad. As you know, he came into office. But it was one lone voice that I remember in 1975 that stood up and said, my grandfather never groomed Warrith Deen Muhammad for this position. As a matter of fact, the headlines on the New York Amsterdam News, I believe it was March the 8th of 1975, said the grandson defies the leadership. And I think it's a Trouble in Islam. Grandson defies the leadership. We'll pull it up. But it was Jesus Muhammad Ali, Herbert Muhammad Jr. He was the son of, or is the son of Herbert Muhammad, who, as you know, for many years was the manager of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's minister, boxing, 3-time boxing champ, Muhammad Ali. Herbert Muhammad. So Herbert Muhammad Jr., Jesus Muhammad Ali, stood up. He said he never groomed him. He said, if anything, he just came back 5 months ago. This was said in 1975 by Jesus Muhammad Ali. Now, I want you to know this, brothers and sisters. He was the lone voice. The national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or the Nation of Islam at that time, was Minister Louis Farrakhan. Minister Louis Farrakhan took to the airways, and when the subject was brought up about what Jesus Muhammad said, Louis Farrakhan didn't stand with his brother on truth. Louis Farrakhan, I'll let you hear what he said in 1975. Brothers and sisters, why am I going into some of this history? Because this particular broadcast, as I stated to you, may possibly be my final broadcast, because I'm moving on. As a matter of fact, the theme of this broadcast on this 4th of July is moving on. I'm moving on for numerous reasons, and I pray Allah that He guides my tongue, that I say and go into everything, because I don't know how long I'm going to be on these airways this day. But I pray Allah that I can touch on everything that has been on my mind with respect to why I have chosen on this day to declare my independence, and that I'm moving on. Brothers and sisters, for nearly 53 years of my life, I grew up believing everything that was put in my brain with respect to the Nation of Islam. I was told that there is no God but Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all holy praise and honor is due, and that he had came to America, and that he found one, that one that he dusted up and cleaned up and stood before the people to be his supreme minister and later his messenger of God, is none other than Elijah Kareem, Elijah Muhammad. This I was taught from a little baby, and I accepted it. I believed it 1,000%. I stood on it whether I understood it firmly or not. I took the position that this is right and exact. I grew up happy. I grew up lovingly knowing that we were students and followers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, brothers and sisters, again, I want to take you back so I can move forward. I want to take you back to let you understand some of my thinking coming up. I grew up in a cult called the Nation of Islam. Oh, yes, it was most definitely a cult. Many of you who came along later, you don't understand, and you may say, well, maybe that's a New York thing. But, brothers, as Allah is my witness, I can tell you what we experienced. Your experience may be different. But we were told not to socialize with those who didn't think like us. We were told that we, the Muslims, we were the main ones. Our job was to try to get our deaf, dumb, and blind brothers and sisters, pull them out of the churches, pull them away from what we felt was the slave-making religion called Christianity. The white man was the devil. He wasn't no something that was down in the ground. No, he was a live human being. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, through his ministers, taught us that the white man was the devil. We were taught that the white man's time was up, that he was going to leave the planet in 1914, except that God gave him an extension of a certain period of time, sometime, and they say 60, not to exceed 70 years. But we grew up in a cult. We couldn't dance, we couldn't party, we couldn't celebrate any of the things that our family members, other family members, when I say family members, I'm speaking specifically of cousins and, aunts and even grandparents. So, if they were celebrating Christmas, we didn't partake in Christmas because we always came and told them, we didn't know who was born on December the 25th. We told them, how could Santa Claus come down a chimney and stay white? So we tried to ruin everybody's holiday. Don't tell us about no Valentine's Day. We'll tell you the history of Valentine's Day. We'll tell you about our Astarte when it comes to the Easter and the celebration. How could Jesus die on a Friday and rise on Sunday? That's not 3 days, we were told. You know, it was just so much teachings that we used to just shoot at everybody. And whether it was Thanksgiving, we went into the history of General Monk. So all we did was try to ruin everybody's happiness. But we were content in being just among us. So we didn't smoke, we didn't drink, we didn't use drugs. My family, I can recall purchasing bags of Navy beans for 9 cents. And that would be our meal sometimes, brothers and sisters. You know, I can recall coming home from school and seeing Captain Yusuf Shah or Captain Joseph in my living room. I can come home. We used to have investigators used to pay a visit to the home. There's so much that you have no idea, that it's personal experiences that I shared. I was attacked verbally by the Coalition from the Remembrance of Elijah's business manager. And I think that's a proper title for him because he manages everybody's business. But I was attacked by this man viciously. I felt for no apparent reason. But I had produced a video, Malcolm X versus the Nation of Islam. And I say again, that's one of my finest works. This DVD, The Naked Truth, Malcolm X versus the Nation of Islam, is still available. You can send $35 and make it payable to the Shabbazz Show, Post Office Box 1016, Levittown, New York, 11756. I produced this. It took me nearly 6 months to do it. I certainly know why I did it. For years I said I was going to do something, and when I saw something come up, or I saw something that was headed in a direction, I decided at that time to just concentrate and do it. It took me 6 months to produce it, and again, I thought it was a very good job. I took more. It was so much on it that I trimmed back. Maybe I'll show you some of what I took off today, because the Bureau of Special Service Investigation, BOSSI, I'll show you some of those files and let you see what was going on during that period of Malcolm X. But I was attacked. The name hypocrite was used, traitor was used. They labeled and cascaded, even used such horrible language to identify me, a man who did nothing but to think outside the box and look at a DVD called Malcolm X versus the Nation of Islam, The Naked Truth. But I found it hypocritical of this fella to attack me on this. For when Minister Louis Farrakhan did the 28 years later on Malcolm X, and he brought up 4 of the sisters who bore children, it was on that day in that Chicago arena that he also called Munir Muhammad up to the arena. He was there. Where was his disgust then? He said, how could this lance of anybody want to bring up Malcolm X to us? We the wrong ones to bring that up to. Brother, you traveled to New York. You were there with Betty Shabbazz and the minister. You were around all of that, but I didn't go to any of those meetings. I didn't attend any of that. But you jumped on me for doing this. My position on Malcolm X is what it is, and I'm going to go into that later, because as long as you can stand before these cameras and just shoot out and don't see your own fault in it, I would never tell someone that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad means more to me than my wife, my children, my grandchildren. That's foolish, brother. I would never say that. But I would never go publicly and say things against you. You boast that you went to the Democratic National Convention and that you was on a private jet with Jesse Jackson, and you boast of your friendship with the fellow who allowed you to use his jet. But he's married to a white woman. I got a lot of issues in my head that I deal with. You constantly made and tried to belittle me, but because of my love for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and saw the purpose of the Coalition for the Remembrance of Elijah Muhammad, I never would go against you. You have pulled me on shows that I had no idea what you were talking about, and then you try and throw these slight remarks. Oh, you don't know nothing about politics. Again, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us basically to stay away from that nonsense. Poly meaning many and ticks meaning bloodsuckers, so we didn't get involved with that. And those integrationists, I have issues with anybody who's married. I remember teaching one of the classes there at the building, and I was going on, the crowd seemed to enjoy it. But you come right behind me and say, Lance talking all of that stuff, and he got white folks in his family. Don't let him fool you. Why would you come behind your brother and do something like that? So, brothers and sisters, I just want to cite some of the things that when you start pointing the finger at one, you better look at yourself as well. Again, I would never go before the world and tell the world that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad means more to me than my wife, my family, that's foolish to me. Let's look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and let's be real about this, brothers and sisters. He was married to someone. That wasn't a perfect marriage. He wrote in his 17-page letter to Warrith Deen Muhammad, he said, your mother don't love me no more. She don't love me like she used to, I should say. And he went on to say, Sister Clara Muhammad went and lived in Egypt with Akbar Muhammad for more than a year. She was upset with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. She moved out of his bedroom down the hall and stayed in the different bedroom, the former room that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's mother, Marie, had stayed in. She got another place in Washington, D.C. at another time. So, brothers and sisters, he wasn't the perfect husband. Let's look at the children. Warrith Deen Muhammad opposed his father publicly. Akbar Muhammad opposed his father. That's another son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Denounced his father and had a separation from his father publicly. So he wasn't the best father. Here he had an extended family of children, and they got different birth certificates on it. Some say they couldn't even publicly acknowledge their daddy. So, brothers and sisters, I'm speaking specifically to someone, and I'm just saying to you, he wasn't the perfect father as well. His eldest grandson, his eldest grandson took to the airways and condemned him. So here we got his wife, his sons, his children, his grandchildren. The one he loved the most, they say, according to Minister Farrakhan, was a minister or a brother named Sultan who flew the pilot, who flew the plane. Sultan, after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed, Warrith Muhammad put him over Washington, D.C. And there are recordings where he condemned his father in some of the most vile and vicious language. But this was his favorite grandson. No, brothers and sisters, let's be real. We have, for too long, will not look at it. I was born in this Munir. You can sit behind the camera and talk about 25, 26 years, 7 days a week, what you're doing. And then you want to cascade that I'm a child I don't understand. No, my blood, my time, my life has been in the Nation of Islam. Long before I ever knew you, I was a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I want to say this with your contempt for Malcolm X. You came aboard in 1972, nearly 7 years after Malcolm was executed, murdered, assassinated. You came along 7 years. He wasn't your hypocrite. For you to get so disgusted and angry after Malcolm X, he wasn't your hypocrite. He was the Muslims in the 65 era. So when someone else bring him up, you won't want to stand by the grave or we don't even, you know what the Holy Quran in the 9th Surah say about a hypocrite? Please, brothers and sisters. If we apply that to Warrith Deen Muhammad, then we'll never go to the cemetery to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because alongside them is Warrith Deen Muhammad. So what, are we standing alongside the grave of a hypocrite? Brothers and sisters, let us use common sense. That's why I'm moving on, brothers and sisters, because I am looking at this thing, and I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, we have to just move on. The teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I know what it did for me. I grew up, brother, with no fear. I could walk in any arena, I could walk in any room, and never felt that I didn't belong anywhere. The teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave me that dignity, gave me that pride, gave me that self-respect, and gave me that confidence. I will always be grateful to Almighty God, Allah, for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But real teachings and real talk is what you're getting today, because I'm moving on.
From what she told me before he learned of Mr. Farad and his teachings, my father was always out in the street, a drunk. He was a drunk. And he would hang out with his friends, doing nothing but drinking. And he wouldn't come home. She would have to go out and get him to make him come home. She told me that, she said, son, one time he was so drunk, I had to let him rest himself on my shoulder. She said, I almost had to carry him all the way into the house, up the stairs. She said, and I dropped him off my shoulder onto the bed, saying that's where he stayed, slept. So that was his condition before he met Mr. Farad. And
Master Farrakhan Muhammad was the name we were told was Allah in person. But let's look at this, brothers and sisters. We are told in our prayers that Allah is whom nothing is independent, but upon whom we all depend. If we depend on Allah, why would he tell the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you don't need me no more? When in time do a man never need God? We need God for everything, brothers and sisters. Prayer is like putting gasoline in the tank. But Master Farrakhan Muhammad, the one the Honorable Elijah Muhammad represented to us as God, told Elijah Muhammad, you don't need me no more. Huh? It's too much mystery. When I open Message to the Black Man and I turn to page 1 and it says Allah is God, who is that mystery God? I'm seeing Master Farrakhan Muhammad as a mystery God. He's certainly been a mystery to me for 53 years. I don't know who he is. He had many aliases. He came in many names, but God, if he's God in person, brothers and sisters, we got to examine this. We got to examine this. They said it took him 42 years to study his own mission, and yet he came and stayed with us for only 3 years. 3 years and 4 months. You better think about it. And on his way to come to us, he stopped off and was tutoring some Caucasians and staying with a Caucasian family in mathematics. Think about it, brothers and sisters. We got to use our brain, brother. Master Farrakhan Muhammad, W.D. Farrakhan Muhammad. If he's an independent God, he came here, and according to what his grandson said, his grandmother said, Sister Clara Muhammad said when she saw him, he looked like poor white trash. This is her language, according to Jesus Muhammad Ali. I'm not making any of this stuff up, brother, and I know saying this is hurtful. But brothers and sisters, I'm just moving on. I got too much in my brains. I got too many things that I rolled over that it'll make you damn crazy. And I have to exhale and let it out. If he was God in person, brothers and sisters, he certainly was someone special. There's no denying that. But here's a man. If we wrote our Savior's letter, many of us who've written Savior's letter, we write to W.F. Muhammad. Here, an attorney in Michigan. Barrels of letters addressed to W.F. Muhammad. I worked for the United States Postal Service for 14 years, brother. And one of the crimes is if you open somebody else's mail. But here's mail that was addressed to W.F. Muhammad in Detroit. Huh? God didn't have his own address. He had it going somewhere else. God had someone cutting his hair, one of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's children. Huh? God had a secretary that was correcting his grammar. Huh? Think about it, brothers and sisters. Let's use common sense. If he was an independent God, we know he was ordered out of Michigan. So we got a God that was ordered out. We got a God that some say that Allah found went to strike him in the mouth, and he stopped the brothers from trying to retaliate because he said, leave him alone. He'll be a good one day. He wasn't a tall man. He was a fella who was just around the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's height. Huh? But we said he was God in person. I want you to hear this, brothers and sisters. Because again, I'm not here to cause any confusion. I'm hoping to free the captive believer. Because we put our faith in a mystery God. A God that we was told was going to live 400 years. And I have to ask the question, why? If he's going to live 400, where the hell is he? What is he doing? He is a mystery God. We have not seen him since 1934, and I haven't seen him ever. And some of you who say you saw him, you don't know why he disappeared and why he went away the way he went away. You better look at it. If he's God in person, he had a father. We were told about Alfonso. We were taught about his mother. We know he had a sibling, at least a sister. Think about it, brothers and sisters. But did he ever attend his sister's funeral? Where did they live? Where did they stay? Where was his father staying? These are some of the questions we should ask. Because they said, you put out table talks and say the questions you would ask God. I want to know, brothers and sisters. I'm saying this to you today, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to go through this history. I'm going to go through this history for the last time, brothers and sisters, and except for these pages that I've finally decided to put down on a paper for a book, I'm not going to deal with this ever again. I'm moving on because it has hurt too many people, and I know of this personally. So if you want to say that I'm just a collector, you want to say that, this brother, I'm not rooted in this, you have no idea, brothers and sisters. I said what I believed, and I believed what I said. All praises are due to Allah. I was able to stand up and do something on faith in what I believed, and Allah has blessed me, brothers and sisters. But I'm moving on. I'm moving on for numerous reasons. I can join the chorus and do certain things. I was in the camp of Minister Louis Farrakhan for many, 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 many years after he stood up. You all don't know this. I use my own funds. My children know it, but you don't know it. I would travel and put up the posters by myself. No one giving me gas. I would produce radio broadcasts on these reel-to-reel tapes. Drive them over to the station. No one gave me money for that. These are some of the things that was done, brother, for my love for the Nation of Islam. I traveled. I got flyers and memorabilia and tape recordings from various cities up and down the East Coast. My work testified my faith. I was not just a collector, brother. I was an interim minister in Jersey City, Muhammad's Mosque, number 21. I worked as a lieutenant. I worked in many offices, whatever was suggested of me, whether it was study groups. I worked in those positions doing the best job that I can. You don't know the sacrifices. I have sisters and brothers who have master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees. I don't have a degree because unofficial withdrawals and my GPA dropped because I thought it was more conducive to rebuild a nation that never was really properly rebuilt. So you don't know the sacrifices that I've made personally unless I tell you. Because nobody gives a damn about the foot soldiers. It's all about the head. As long as you look at the head, we don't give a damn about how you fall off, who is murdered. We don't give a damn about anybody but our own selfish self. And brothers and sisters, that's not Islam. You love for your brother what you love for yourself. But if one man tell you that man is no good, the rest of you turn your back on him. That's not Islam. If a brother didn't do anything to you, why the hell would you ostracize him? Think about it, brothers and sisters. And what good is that? Does that make that right? You better listen. I'm Brother Lance Shabbazz, and you're viewing the Lance Shabbazz Show. This is a theme today called Moving On this 4th of July. I pray Allah that I'm reaching you and that you're listening to what I'm saying, because by Allah's grace, I'm moving on. As stating it as a fact that I need to move on. And I pray Allah that you would respect that I'm moving on with this. I want to live the balance of my life now, trying to get closer, move closer with my family and others, because I say to you, brothers and sisters, I've experienced the height of joy in the Nation of Islam, but I've also felt the bottomless pit of hell inside the Nation of Islam. I've experienced both dualities, the joy and the sorrow. I've had friends who I thought were my friends turn on me, brothers and sisters. I've had those who say they respect you, disrespect you. There are many who owes me money from when I ran the tape department in New York, who know that I got a book and I know who owed me money, but they disrespected me. But that's all right, brothers and sisters, because I'm moving on. I thank Almighty God, Allah, that I believe that I can find my sanity. See, you don't just become in a cult for 50-something years and think you can leave unscathed. You know, there's many, many emotional things that tie in my head. Every time I hear that a Muslim, whether they are with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad today or yesterday, I feel the pain. As the sister captain from San Francisco, I believe her janazah is tomorrow. But I don't know her, but I know she was a captain of the MGT for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so I feel the pain. Minister Raymond in Houston, a long-time Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was murdered. I felt that pain, brother. You have no idea the psychological damage of being a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It was a cult. As I mentioned to you, brothers and sisters, as I said, you would have no idea how I would wake up in the middle of the night and have these sweats where I believed that I was out killing white folks, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the white man's time was up and that he was to leave the planet. And I used to have these out-of-body experiences, seemed like on a regular basis, where I was out with a propeller on my back and I was swooping down, just murdering white folks, and I would wake up in the middle of the night with all of these sweats. Brother, this is because the teachers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when you're a little child and you hear all of this, you're being programmed. You're being taught things whether you know it or not, and you just go along with it. So I was attacked in Chicago by Munir Muhammad, and they said I'm a child and I didn't have any understanding. Muhammad in Theology Times, June 4th, 1972. Another thing that little boy Lance should learn, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him in the second tape about Jonah. Told Jonah to go into Nineveh and tell him
the truth. They need an extension of time. And of course, this Negro that I just mentioned, he know he needs an extension of time. He's entertained people like Elijah Jr. and Khalil Ali. These people are not believers in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Muhammad Ali said early on about Khalil, if she don't be quiet, he'll expose her. So I shared this with Lance. You understand? But when you get in trouble and you don't know which way to go, rather than to humble yourself and come back and say, I was wrong, brother. I'm sorry that I did this. You understand? Because he knows what he did. Because he got with that New York element that has built nothing in the Nation of Islam, who have fooled themselves that they really were doing something. We were here in heaven with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's why we know him.
I've always said I didn't understand certain things, and certainly I struggled with these teachings. But you could sit on the camera, before the cameras, and say that you, for 25, 26 years, 7 days a week, you uplift the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brother, that is a noble work, and I'm not trying to shortchange it, brother. But again, I was born in this Nation of Islam. I was reared. I can document my history, but you can't document your history. For a 10-year period, you disappeared, brother. You disappeared for 10 years before you decided to work and establish the coalition for the remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was working in the vineyard. I was working in the field. I was not just a collector, brother. You know, that's an insult to say that I was just a collector. I was a registered Muslim working in the Nation of Islam from when I was a little boy, brother. I was a young brother who sold papers, helped to rebuild the Muhammad's Temple of Islam, number 7. You said that it was raised by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that he had written a check after the hypocrites firebombed it. But no, we raised money. This is documented history. I'm going to play for you, brothers and sisters, and let you hear the charity drive. How the restoration funds, we had these little help pouch bags, and we had these things where you stuck the quarters in, and we went out there to raise money to rebuild there in Harlem. When the alarm went out and I heard, I rushed right up there off the number 3 train to get to 116th Street to be there alongside the brothers when all of that was taking place, brother. I'm not just a collector. I lived this. Woody Crest. When we purchased Woody Crest and it didn't have the windows and I kept posts, had to go from one building to the other building underground. You don't know nothing about that. So late for school that I saw a masking tape with the Captain Joseph or Captain Shah's number, and I called him and he chewed me out telling me I should have called others before. I don't call him direct. No, I was more than just a collector, brother. I worked in this Nation of Islam. I worked in the Nation of Islam to rebuild the Nation of Islam. All of this while you were out in the grave, brother. I don't know what you were doing, Sister Kim. But I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, but there's no animosity, there's no jealousy, there's nothing when it comes to the believers there at Temple number 20 in Camden, New Jersey, Minister Wasim and the brothers and sisters there at Temple number 20. I'm not going to even get into that divisive talk because I've heard the talk that as if I'm sort of somewhat jealous of them. No, I admire the work that the brothers and sisters are doing there in Camden. In that short time, to have a newspaper, to have a radio broadcast, to have a restaurant, to have now established the University of Islam, and to have a weekly meetings and have classes going on in that community in such a short time, I cannot knock that, brother. So I'm not going to let anybody try to tell me about Lance Shabbazz. I know my heart, and my heart is sincere, brother. So again, and growing up in the Nation of Islam, you accept everything. And since I always had difficulty, so why did I do the Lance Shabbazz show the way I did the Lance Shabbazz show? Brothers and sisters, I wrestled and struggled with the Nation of Islam. I never got answers that I felt was satisfactory. So I decided to bring on guests, the pioneers, and just raise the questions that as a little child I didn't get understanding from. That's all the Lance Shabbazz I was trying to do. Many of you think this show was for you, but it was actually for me. I was working out something before the public. I had issues that I had to deal with, psychological issues that I felt that I needed to be addressed. And so the Lance Shabbazz show was my outlet to address it. So when I said that this program was therapy for me, maybe some of you fully didn't understand. I had issues, brothers. There was a lot of things that going on in the Nation of Islam that you have not a clue. Munir Muhammad, you attack me, but you have no idea There's so many things you have no knowledge of, but you say you study Elijah Muhammad 7 days a week, but you right up under the messenger's nose and didn't know what was going on. But brothers and sisters, I'm here today to tell you I'm moving on. I'm moving on because there was a lot of foolishness. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was not in charge of the Nation of Islam. Silas Muhammad mentioned it many years ago when he moved to Chicago. He said family members told him that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad don't run this. He said in time he found out how right they were. This is actual facts, brother. You wonder how these ministers... See, Wallace Muhammad, even though I could not stand Wallace Muhammad, he actually was telling a lot of truths. These guys became superfly pimp ministers. Ministers who didn't have hardly any money, could barely keep a suit on them. All of a sudden they were driving Rolls Royces. They had mink coats. All of a sudden they were the Mercedes Benz, and some even had chauffeurs. They became big time pimps. He talked about one of his uncles who had a ring on. He said he thought he would have to take the ring off just because his finger to let that lifting all those muscles. I have those tapes, brothers and sisters, but in the interest of time, just take my word for it. All I'm saying to you is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was not in charge in 1972 when Munir and them came in. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to finish up the theology of time. His wife, I believe in August, passed that 72. He was very ill. We'll show you the reports from the court records, how his health had rapidly deteriorated after the passing of his wife, Sister Clara Muhammad. This is actual fact. And the nation ran amok. There was the murders in January of 73 of the Hanafi killings. And I mentioned the Hanafi killings because one of the murders I had scheduled for my show, I was in the home of a believer, and this brother was beginning to tell me about how he went in there and murdered babies, how he took everybody out.
My oldest daughter, shot in the head several times and left for dead, has stated positively that this brutal crime was committed by the Elijah Pool X's, the leader of the so-called sectarian Nation of Islam, with headquarters in Chicago at number 2 Temple. They are also called Black Muslims.
He told me also how in Camden, New Jersey, Benjamin Coxon, that he had to go and check out something that he felt that they got orders to check out something that he had done to Muhammad Ali. And when they got there, he said they saw all of this cocaine, all these drugs, and they took him out. This is what I was told by this brother, and as I listened to him, and I started saying to myself, I said, brother, babies? He said, that's right, that's right. Many of you don't understand the mind of a Muslim. The reason I can befriend or have a relationship with Brother Tamich here, the reason I can have a relationship, or if I would say with Bradley, because I understand that, brothers. I couldn't stand Wallace D. Muhammad. I hated Wallace D. Muhammad because I believed he was destroying the Nation of Islam. At 22, 23, 24 years of age, if the right party would have approached me about taking the life of Wallace D. Muhammad, I would have joined it. And without hesitation, because I believe it was my job to preserve the Nation of Islam. I believe that I had to be a defender of it. And this is what I feel about brothers who participated in the murder of Malcolm X. I told them, if it wasn't for you brothers, there would be none of me. Because you all helped to preserve the platform that we stand on today. So I don't see these brothers as the way many of you see them. I know that they did something, whether it was out of ignorance or just blind loyalty, they did something that they felt was the proper thing to do to preserve a Nation of Islam. They would have never given out their lives and lost their marriages and lost some connection with their children if they knew the Nation of Islam was going to go the direction that it went. Brothers and sisters, I know that for a fact. But we gave our life. And I gave my life to this. But no longer, brothers and sisters, I'm moving on. Again, brother, there was in 1972, we're talking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was not in charge. There was the zebra killings, the 179 days of terror out on the West Coast through the Black Self-Help and Moving Company, those murders that took place in San Francisco by those Muslims out there. Minister, oh brother, I can just go on. The murder of Minister James Shabbazz. My aunt's first husband was murdered. Huh? There was murders after murders after murders. Brother I had seen at the Slave Theater, but I saw him in the company of Brother Captain Yusuf Shah on a few occasions. I saw him hang down also at the masjid there on Bedford Avenue. And to me, he seemed to be more influenced with that form brand of Islam. But as you will hear him, as he became the FOI captain, and you're going to hear him teach at the FOI class, you listen and tell me, is that the language of a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or does that sound like Wallace D. Muhammad language? Captain Muhammad Abdul Aziz, Norman 3 X Butler.
But I have to get to this one. Man, old mankind. I don't like to say that, because that's not right. Oh man, reverence your guardian Lord who created you from a single person. In the beginning, the God created himself. And life was nothing like it is today. Nothing like it is today. But then again, what we're doing is not like it was in 1930. I won't say nothing like it. And when Master Prophet Muhammad was here, they was in basements trying to get the teachings in with a handful of people. So they rose up out of there and bought a couple of halls, and not bought, but rented a couple of halls, and had the believers in there, and so on and so on. But, so a single person, the Bible says, evil entered into the world by one person, one man, and also righteousness enters into the world by one man, which is a replication of how it was in the beginning, because God created himself by himself. And then he said, created of like nature his mate, but he was by himself a long time. Long time. Like, long time. Not a couple of days. Like 6 million years or more. And then he created of like nature. So the one he made has the nature of himself and the power to be God. And he called what he made the womb of mind. The womb that will produce for me automatically what I had to go through changes to produce for myself. The womb of mind is called woman, or the womb of man, or the womb of mind, the place where mind is developed. This is developed in total triple darkness. There's only one place where total triple darkness still exists.
Brothers and sisters, we're just giving you some of this history. Again, I'm getting out of here, but I'm moving on. And I'm moving on for numerous reasons. And as I said, I can go all the way back, but I have to clear this brain. This brain has been so in flux for 53 years of so much stuff that I would never answer to. I just accepted it. But when the question is raised, why would Isaiah Kareem, who was a former minister for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there in Dallas or Baltimore, Maryland, why would he call the messenger wives, as they would say that language, prostitutes? And then for the public to allow that to be printed in the edition of the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, and yet I heard her give a contribution several months ago now, and they refer to her as Mother Lucille. We looked at the petitions that she put, how she wanted to just have someone to care for her child, and they list the children's name. Again, brothers and sisters, I'm only going into this. They say don't air your dirty laundry. But we will never go forward, or you will never go forward in the Nation of Islam if it's structured on lies, deception. If we're going to follow the restrictive law, and it said to speak the truth regardless of circumstances. If we're going to speak the truth, or as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, defend truth at any cost. If we're going to follow those words, then we have to tell the truth. As long as we can hide and give a somewhat wicked, I would say, interpretation on truth, or deception on truth, we'll never be rooted in truth. We as Muslims, I'll just say it like it and be blunt and honest with you. I don't want to be a part of anything that is not founded on truth. I just have to be honest with you. And so if you're saying, Brother Lance, you don't believe the Nation of Islam is founded on truth, I'm saying that it says that not a fool would err. It was a plain warner. I agree that God used the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to get a message to us. In that sense, he did deliver a message which makes him the messenger. I have no problem with that, brothers and sisters. But when
gone, he said, then you can say whatever you want to about me.
The physical body of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that's wrong, brother. That is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong. I say to those of you who want to fix all of this certain magnetism to Minister Louis Farrakhan, that is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong. When this man closes his eyes and they start opening up and you start investigating Louis Eugene Walcott, you're going to really be surprised, brothers and sisters, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said one would come along that would make Malcolm's hypocrisy look like child's work, huh? When you start really looking to see who was government agents, when you started really looking at the COINTELPRO and see it from another angle, you thinking it's all Warrith Deen Muhammad, that's the one that the government named in 1969. That's the one the government named that we should watch, Warrith Deen Muhammad. But they also say we should be in position to change the direction of the Nation of Islam. Louis Farrakhan has changed the direction of the Nation of Islam, and I don't want to use those cliches where they say he is directing the change. No, sir. You know, the government doesn't fear Louis Farrakhan. He just came to New York to do a press conference to warn them on Libya. He did one a few months ago where he warned them on Libya. He just constantly warned and warned and warned and warned. Brothers and sisters, the government is not paying them any attention. They know that the minister wants to jump into the spotlight. They know he's a lover of these cameras. They know that he loves attention. And they know also he wants to be relevant in history. So he is going to work on that, as he's working on a recording album, as he said. And he want to tell us Tina Marie offered a song called A Message to the Black Man. White Tina Marie. A devil Tina Marie. Brothers and sisters, her music may sound well, but please, we don't need that. But he's not Quincy Jones. He's trying to get a Grammy. The minister never gave up his music. He plays that violin. That's his love. But that's all right. But don't try to play like you're the right hand of God. Don't play that you got two backing you up. No, brothers and sisters, that's all foolishness. And again, you're going to see when he closes his eyes and they start to really investigate how many children this man have had. Huh? When you get to understand a lot of the foolish things this minister has done. As I mentioned earlier, he told you about Sweet Akbar, how he and Brother Khalid wanted to go after a man who they felt would rob them of $25,000 when the nation was facing hard times. Well, what do you say about Minister Louis Farrakhan giving $50,000 to Melba Moore because she had some financial problems in her life? The whole nation has financial problems, but he can give $50,000, and this came straight from Melba Moore, speaking in Queens. So, brothers and sisters, again, you have to ask yourself, who are we following? Who are we with? Why are we with it? Do we not have a common sense, or do we just follow anybody who stands up before us because they sound good and they can read from the Holy Quran and they make you sound, the words dance off your mouth? You know, some of you think Sister Tainetta Muhammad, the wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, please wake up. Just wake up. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. Let us wake up. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I will go to my grave loving the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I love him now in a different sense than I saw him just a few years ago, brothers and sisters, because a certain knowledge have come to me. And I love him. I grew up loving Louis Farrakhan, whether you want to believe it or not. I traveled all around this country. Wherever he was going, I had to be there. Brothers and sisters, not only to secure him, to see that nothing went off, to make sure that he was get in and get out, but I also went there because I just loved being in the presence of hearing that language. But again, I thought we were rebuilding a nation. Maybe I'll play some of those clips where he went on his advertisement when he was writing in the local newspapers here in New York, Amsterdam News, with his column, The Final Call. Perhaps I'll play the commercial where they said the nation is being rebuilt. We have a newspaper now. There's so much we could bring on on this history. Again, brothers and sisters, I'm not one who just collects information. I utilize that information. I have Minister Jeremiah X speaking at the mosque. I have Minister George 7X speaking at the mosque. I got Minister Lewis X speaking at the mosque. I got Minister Willie 5X speaking at the mosque. I got Minister Troy X speaking at the mosque. I got Minister Lewis X and Louis Farrakhan speaking. All of this is 1964, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. I have that history, brothers and sisters. No one has to tell me a artificial history where they are fluffing it up and putting themselves in it, and not only that, out and out lying. I mean, I got Minister Farrakhan talking about Clarence 13X. It's a different Louis Farrakhan than that was talked when he died in 1969. Brothers and sisters, I'm just telling you, brothers and sisters, this is history. It's just history, it's just history, it's just history. And all praises are due to Allah. I thank Almighty God, Allah, for this opportunity. As I said, I'm moving on, and I just spending so much time, and I should just abruptly stop. But I wanted to give you some of this history because again, the former James 67X Warden, James Shabbazz, as you know, he was in charge of the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, the organization that Malcolm founded. He also shared with me that Malcolm, it was never about the babies. He said it was never about the children. That's why the Malcolm X was leaving the Nation of Islam. He said he was disgusted over the shooting of the secretary out there at Muhammad's Temple of Islam, number 27, in Los Angeles, California, Ronald T.X. Stokes. I think it was April 27th of 1962. He was very upset over that. And that he went to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and said to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he wanted to add a part on the bottom of the charity slip to take care of the family of Ronald T.X. Stokes. And according to James 67X, he said Malcolm told him that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the devil killed him, let the devil take care of him, and that Malcolm was pretty upset behind that action. As you know, his cousin, Ronald T.X. cousin, was also a secretary. Brother Audrey in Boston, Audrey Burnett, I believe, was his name, out of Boston, Minister Louis Farrakhan's mosque, and he left the Nation of Islam for a number of reasons as well. And we have an interview with him and Malcolm discussing some of these things. But it's just so much history, so much we could tell you. Again, I'm not just a collector. I was a brother who grew up in it, and when you grow up in something and you believe that the man that you following is God's last messenger, everything about it was important to me. I tried to hold on to everything. If it was a flyer, if it was a bill, whatever it was, I tried to maintain it and hold on to it because this was God's messenger, so God's hands had to be in it. That was my thinking, but I'm moving on. I'm moving on because in my little small circle, it's important, but to the overall world, no one gives a damn. No one gives a damn about who sacrificed, who laid themselves down on the line, who gave up their life for this. Brother Norman 3X Butler, again, Muhammad Abdul Aziz, got a divorce, I believe it's like 6 or 7 years while he was serving the time for Malcolm's murder because the wife just couldn't hold on. It's just, I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, it's a long trial, and many of us have made sacrifices that none of you even care about, because it's like, oh, so what? So what? So what? If it isn't about the leader, then you don't even care. And that's not Islam, and that's not a brotherhood. I'd rather, they say, how can you love God whom you've never seen and yet not have that same sort of love or hate for your brother whom you see every day? That's, brothers and sisters, we have to rethink these teachings. I was going to go off into Scientology. I was going to go off into a whole lot of things. But I have to move on. And again, brothers and sisters, I know that this broadcast have angered many. And there may be a falling out and a repercussions and may even physical harm come to me. But I say this to you, I'm not doing this to be no martyr. I'm not doing this to bring any tension. I said to you from the beginning that this was therapy for me. And I hope you respect that as I move on. My father gave up a career as a gospel singer, performed at the Apollo Theater and around the world. He came in and sacrificed and came to the Nation of Islam. And because he did, here I am today. I thank Almighty God Allah for my father. I thank Almighty God Allah for my grandmother. I thank Almighty God Allah for my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, all of them who we represented Islam to you. It's time to move on. I thank Almighty God Allah. I thank Allah that I have the sense now to lay everything on the table now and look at it for what it is and now sort it out and now try to come into some understanding. It's going to take years to detox myself from some of this madness, but I'm going to move on. So much was planted in my head, brothers and sisters, and I hope I'm conveying this to you because as I am speaking off the top of my head, but I know what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. You have no idea. I was told the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. that when he met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he went to the mountaintop. It said that when he said why he opposed the war in Vietnam was because he met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Some say he said that he agreed with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that there were many different snakes, both of them coming from Georgia, and that yes, he agreed that the white man was a devil. This is what I was told. I was told that J. Edgar Hoover and others wanted to prevent the rise of a black messiah, one who would electrify and unify. I was told that because of that meeting, that Martin Luther King met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they went to move on him. And so I would go repeat these stories that I heard you ministers tell us. But brothers and sisters, for $700, though I didn't pay the fee, I read the transcripts of Dr. Martin Luther King and what he said when he met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in February of 1966. He did not say, as a matter of fact, he said that he didn't agree with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was in Chicago and he paid him a visit that lasted only 50 minutes. Though Sister Khalil Ali said that she served him food. Minister Woodrow told me he captured it on still films, on still cameras. And others said that they were there when Dr. Martin Luther King came to the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But he said he didn't agree with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it's recorded. But these were some of the stories that was told about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You got Warrith Deen Muhammad said when he met the father-in-law of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Sister Clara Muhammad's father, he said that about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he married his daughter, he said, I never thought he would mount to anything. He said that boy never had anything. And he said, but he's a big shot today. Maybe I'll play that clip. There's so much history that you have no idea. And some of the things for years I wouldn't put them out because we wanted to what? Give our brother the benefit of the doubt. Master Farad Muhammad said, are there any Muslims other than righteous? I beg your pardon, I've never heard of one. So he said, we give our brother what? The benefit of the doubt. And so that's what I did with Muslims. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, you clog your brains up with so much stories, brothers and sisters, that are not actual facts. You know, you'll bug yourself out. And I'm just trying to weed myself away from a lot of that madness. And so I'm moving on. Brothers and sisters, I met Joe Tex when I was first 9 years of age. And I loved him from the time I met him. I loved him for his performance. They called him the clown prince of, I forgot the title they used to call him, but the clown prince of dancing or something they used to call him. Amazing, it just slipped my tongue. But I loved Joe Tex from the time I met him, brothers and sisters. I met him at a Muslim bazaar. My dad was holding post back at his dressing room. And we just enjoyed the performance of Brother Joe Tex. He had accepted Islam, he told me, in 1966. Though there's an article in the Muhammad Speaks that say in 1967. But he told me that he accepted at Mosque number 29 in Miami, Florida in 1966. He became a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. As you know, he would walk away from show business when he was at the height of his music career. He had a triple platinum record called I Got You, but he walked away from it to help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He would work on the drive to build the hospital drive. Again, brothers and sisters, I'm just taking this time because I'm not doing any more shows. I'm going over this history, and I'm taking my time deliberately today because I'm moving on. And I just want to give you this history for one last time. Those who are interested in it, there you have it. Those who are not interested in it, you can log off. But I'm doing this. I'm setting it, and I'm leaving it out in the atmosphere for my children, for my cousins, those who once accepted Islam, and those now. I want you to know, because you only know me as a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But perhaps I can leave this as some sort of legacy, as some sort of definitive understanding of why or what Islam has done for me and why I love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but why I'm also moving on. So Joe Tex, I would see Joe Tex, I saw him teach Islam as a minister of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm just telling you what they said to me, but he would pass away, and at his funeral, the imam did this service. He had a Muslim burial in Navasota, Texas, and I'm just grateful and thankful that I got to meet Joe Tex, and I said the final call did not do a story when he passed. And after all that hard work that Joe Tex did and how he would do concerts and help pay all of the expenses to help raise a nation. See, I'm a very loyal brother, and I respect and will always respect the memory that I had for Joe Tex. His sons, I've met 2 or 3 of them via telephone, actually, but I was a little disturbed to learn that they uphold Christianity. Ramadan Aziz was the one that he met, or the child that he had in, I believe, September 30th of 76, after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he also was, he married Sister Layla, who was Bilala Aziz, and he married her, and they produced that child, Ramadan Aziz, but they're Christians, and it just disturbed me because so many Muslims, when I look at, and these are the things when I say I don't understand. I just don't understand it, brothers and sisters. I just don't understand it. I really don't. And I just have to be honest with you. It just, you wonder how someone who gave their life, you don't understand. When you're a registered Muslim and a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you automatically a sacrifice. And you sacrifice so much of your time, so much of your life. You give everything to help to rebuild or build a nation. And you do it for the future generations. And when you have offsprings that denounce you, or not denounce you, but I guess they are denouncing you when they accept the Christian religion after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about Christianity. And you can break it down, anti, meaning anti-Christ. That's not Christianity. But brothers and sisters, it just, I don't know. It disturbs me when Khalid Abdul Muhammad, a man who preached Islam for many, many years, as Brother Harold, Malik Rashideen, he was just a strong supporter of the Nation of Islam. Abdul Rahman gave him his start as the first time he put him on the rostrum when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was still among us. But Khalid Abdul Muhammad, strong black brothers, taught black power, just was a representative of black power. Loved him, loved Brother Khalid Muhammad. But I listened to Brother Khalid Muhammad, and I have recordings on everybody. I have a recording he did in Africa in 1977 before he hooked up with Minister Farrakhan, where he was lying. Said that he used to have dinner regularly with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He lied on that tape, brothers and sisters. He would say years later he never sat down at the table with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I don't understand why you have to lie when the truth will be sufficient. But Brother Khalid Muhammad, after all that he did, he named his child Farrakhan Khalid after Minister Louis Farrakhan. But this boy rejects his father's name and uses another name. You know him as Dr. Farah Gray. I heard him say that he got to get his church on. I heard him say that he was raised by his grandmother. When I saw the boy, and the boy used to travel with Brother Khalid regularly. And I don't understand. These are things I just don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But I just want to say, when you see Muslims who represented Islam so strong, and you see others seem to want to go the other way, there's something wrong with this, brothers and sisters. We got to look at it for what it is. We just have to look at it for what it is. Muhammad Ali. Loved Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all times, we said. Muhammad Ali, as you know, accepted Islam by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the early 60s. He was Cassius Marcellus Clay. His brother was Rudy Valentino. He accepted Islam as well. Both of these young brothers accepted Islam in the very early ages, and they would become fine Muslims. Loved Islam. Muhammad Ali, to me, more than Malcolm X and Louis Farrakhan. He represented black pride, black power. You didn't see him one who always was skinning and grinning with white folks. That Muhammad Ali, when I was a young child, came up. He told you the truth. I saw him teach as a minister for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I would put what we call today flyers, but they were called throwaways. I would scotch tape them on my father's vehicle as we was driving to see Muhammad Ali at Muhammad's Temple of Islam, number 7C in Brooklyn. And I'm getting a little tongue-tied, getting a little tired, but I want to finish this because, again, I'm moving on. And I just want to give you some of this history. But with all of that blackness, with all of that teachings, Muhammad Ali, I was told, or I read actually, by Layla Ali, who was one of the daughters, who you know as the boxer, she said that Ali was a Muslim, but he allowed them to have a Christmas tree up in this room. I also heard that, no, I didn't hear this, this is actual fact, that some of his children married Caucasians after Ali said that he didn't want his wife, he wanted a wife that was pretty and dark-skinned just like him. He didn't want no babies that spotted up children, you know, to produce any spotted up children. But as they always say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So Ali has these Caucasians or half-breeds as his grandchildren. I don't understand it, brothers. As hard as we taught, it seemed like everything was reversed. And I know a lot of you like to throw the scriptures that when Moses went away, the people went back. They went astray. They went savage. And that has some validity to it. But brothers and sisters, maybe I'm not as scripturally as everybody else, though I read the scriptures. I look at history because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that was most attractive. You know, and out of all our research, that was most attractive. The study of history, and best to reward all research. I remember in 1975, our minister in Corona was a minister by the name of Charles 66X. He had come in from Connecticut, but they moved his family, had went to Houston, Texas, mosque number 45, and he was Brother Mahmoud Ansari. In to replace him was from the Bronx came Brother Alton 2X. Now, Brother Alton 2X was the minister there. And again, I liked Brother Alton. I thought he was a pretty good minister while he was there. But he went on to marry a Caucasian woman. I don't understand it. As you know, his cousin was Minister Henry 24X, who I had on my program. But these are some of the things that I just don't understand. I was going to reach out and interview him. Him and Brother William did a show for many years, a cable public access program. I can't even remember the name now. It was some silly show that they did. But I don't understand it. I don't understand how Joshua Farrakhan could pick up a cave woman out of the rehab and produce a child, and some say married this devil, and still hang with Minister Louis Farrakhan. I don't understand it. And it seemed to be accepted. But there's just some things that I don't understand, brothers and sisters. Sultan Rahman, Sultan Muhammad, who was the one who flew the pilot for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his son Sultan, has these table talks that they're working on. Sultan's mother, Jamila, married a Caucasian after Sultan died. And this was the child that raised Sultan. Now, Jamila, I was told, in some circles, could be true, but I'm just saying what I was told by family members, that was Malcolm X's daughter. That she was raised by some foster parents or step-parents out of the state of Pennsylvania. Again, brothers and sisters, I'm moving on, so I'm just putting this history out there for you. You can do the research if you want to, or you can leave it alone, but she married a Caucasian. I don't understand it.